David,
Yes.
do you know the one thing that most LGBTQ people will not talk about?
Politics.
Nope.
Religion.
No.
Sex.
No.
What is it?
Their incomes.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why we're talking about it on Queer Money episode 365. It's the thing that queer folks really won't talk about.
So let's talk about it and let's get on with the show. Are you afraid to talk about your income?
Well, evidently, folks in the LGBT community kind of are, because out of all 24 questions that we asked on the Motley Fool Debt-Free Guys LGBTQ plus money study, the question, what is your individual salary or annual income, is the one question that looks like folks really didn't want to respond to. We got a lot of no responses on that. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, so I've thought about this quite a bit. I think by and large, probably most of us fall into one of three categories. Either one, we are too scared to share our salary because we're embarrassed by how little we make. Two, we're too scared to share our salary because of how much we make. We don't want people to think that we're part of the 1%ers and we're the evil people. Or three, there probably is a large contingency of people who just think it's none of our beeswax.
Yeah, I would venture to say probably that third one is the most common, but it is interesting how many people in our community are scared to talk about their financial success because of feeling judged by other people in the community.
Yeah,
which is kind of sad. But as with money, I think it's really important for folks in the queer community to talk about their salaries.
And I do think that third one that most people think is nobody else's beeswax, how much money they make or how little money they make, is probably somewhat of a hangover from the days of yore, like company policies and where they would say it's against company policy to talk about salaries. You shouldn't talk about salaries because they don't want to create intra-corporate competition. And I don't think a lot of people know. In fact, I've posted this a couple of times on social media. And every time we post something about this on social media, about the need to talk about salaries, somebody always comes up and say, well, if you want to get fired, sure, go ahead and talk about it. But
it's not right.
It's actually illegal. According to, there was a policy made by the Department of Labor. It's actually illegal to make a company policy that bans employees from talking about and sharing their salaries.
Yeah. And actually I think there's a couple of states now, I think Colorado and New York are states that actually require job postings to have salary ranges. But what's really interesting, I read an article about this week, that they're finding that HR representatives and hiring managers are actually not telling the full truth about those salary ranges. They're actually reducing the salary ranges so that existing employees don't go to them and say, hey,
I want to get paid.
I want to get paid. I need a raise.
So now if you see that there's a comparable job on the market for what you do at your company and you see the salary range is slightly lower, you know to add 10% to see if you're getting paid fairly.
Right. Well, and I think this brings up the good point. We really do need to normalize talking about our salaries with our fellow employees, because if our bosses, if our HR representatives are lying to us about what the salary ranges are when we're first getting hired, then we may be susceptible to the fact that we may be seeing a huge disparity in what people are getting paid, which we know that can have an impact on people in the queer community.
It leads to the sexual orientation, gender identity, and the gender wage gap that we've been struggling with for millennia. So this is why we need to normalize talking about our salaries. It allows for fair wages, which is what we're all seeking, right? So that's our takeaway for you today. Start talking about your salary. It may sound scary, you may be embarrassed by it, but actually not talking about it is holding lots of people in the LGBTQ community back with their salaries and their incomes.
Yeah, salary transparency is important.
So stay tuned for your Queer Money takeaway from this episode. Thank you for listening to another episode. Here's your Queer Money takeaway. Talk about your salary. Talk about your money. It's the best way we can all start doing better with both.
Yeah, it can be scary. Completely get it. But the more we do it, the easier it gets, right? So do that. And then join us next Tuesday when we talk with Dr. Randy Patterson about hedonic forecasting, what it is, and how we can stop being so damn miserable. And then next Tuesday, when we talk about why it looks like LGBTQ same-sex couples are closing the income gap.
That latter is actually next
Thursday.
Thank you, and have a great week.